Okay, good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself first. My name is Rae-Kwon. I am the Climate Change Ambassador of the Republic of Korea. And I'd like to introduce the guest speakers here. On my left, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Yes, my name is Dirk Pilat. I'm the Head of Science and Technology Policy at the OECD. My main responsibilities are related to science and technology policy, but I also work on issues related to environmental innovation and so on. So that's basically what I talk about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, on my right?
Yeah. Yes, I am Mike Roco. I am Senior Advisor at National Science Foundation, and I am also involved and I proposed the National Nanotechnology Initiative in the United States.
예, 제 이름은 조용성입니다. 고려대학교에 있고요. 그 기후변화 특성화 대학원 오늘 운영하고 있습니다. 그 환경경제학 전공이고 기후변화에 관심을 갖고 있습니다.
Okay, thank you very much for everyone. Our topic for this afternoon talk is the vision for environmental revolution to achieve low carbon green growth. And I'm not sure whether you have already heard that Korean President Lee Myung-bak announced 15th of August that Korea's new national vision is low carbon green growth. So I'm very interested to hear the views of our foreign guests, both of you, Mr. Roco and Mr. Pilat, about how do you think of Korea's new vision of low carbon green growth? Can you open the floor first?
Yeah, sure, I can. No, I think that's a vision which is probably shared with a number of countries. I'm from Europe, and I think in Europe you see a lot of interest in this issue as well at the moment. I think partly it is because countries recognize that sort of climate change is really becoming a very urgent problem. But I think countries also see this as an opportunity for change. And I think actually at the OECD where I work, we have done some work to look at the costs of sort of trying to really address climate change. And we found that the cost of really trying to use policies to deal with climate change are probably a lot lower than waiting for the problem to occur and then trying to see with all the costs we have. So economically it makes sense to try and work and to try and really address climate change. And I think the vision which Korea has in this is something which many countries will be looking forward to as well. I think, for instance, the European Union at the moment there's a very strong focus on also trying to move to a low carbon society, really to try and use modern technologies to decouple economic growth from the emissions from the pollutions which we're all causing in the atmosphere.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment. How about Mr. Roco?
Yes, the topic is certainly of interest also in the United States. I will refer in fact to topics that I know better and also is related to what happened in Korea. How to use, for instance, advanced technologies to address this issue. For instance, if we speak about nanotechnology, one can develop new methods to manufacture goods with less material, less water, less energy, less waste, and at the same time can develop fundamentally new methods to convert energy more efficiently or filter the water more efficiently or eventually reduce the content of toxic material in food and agricultural products. I like to give two examples that probably are less known. One is, for instance, is development of thermoelectric materials that transform directly solar energy in electricity or gradient of temperature from the surface of the soil to, for instance, underground or from external wall in a building to internal wall. And recently these methods have become economical. Secondly, I like to mention another method that in US is called green gasoline. What is this? is to use existing wild plants, not special corn or other specially cultivated materials. As you know, at this moment in US we use ethanol, but this has two major disadvantages. First of all, you have to use a production of food for ethanol, and this has raised the price for food a lot. And secondly, to obtain ethanol from corn, you use about the same amount of energy as you use for getting to run the car. And so basically the process is not efficient. Now the new method is to use low temperature catalytic methods with a similar catalyst that I use now in all industry to transform existing residue, existing wild plants, wild trees, and transform directly in a process called catalytic fast pyrolysis. And this method is in development now and is very promising, and it's a way to obtain high quality gasoline from wild vegetation. This is introduction.
Okay, thank you very much for coming. How about Professor Cho?
예. 제가 알고 있는 그 저탄소 녹색 성장은 정부에서 얘기하는 게 이런 정의입니다. 에너지를 적게 사용하고요. 환경 오염을 최대한 줄이고 녹색 기술과 청정 에너지를 통해서 새로운 성장 동력과 일자리를 창출해서 국가 발전을 이루는데 새로운 패러다임으로 하자라는 겁니다. 그래서 그 주요 내용이 몇 가지가 있는데요. 그린홈 100만호 건설하는 거, 그리고 2012년까지 그린카 4대 강국으로 가겠다는 거, 그리고 이거를 위해서 그 에너지 부분에서 신재생 에너지를 확대하고 또 원자력을 좀 많이 확충하겠다라는 이제 의견을 갖고 있습니다. 그래서 저는 한번 다른 분들께 좀 화두를 좀 던져서 좀 궁금한 게, 우리가 녹색 성장이라는 개념하고 지금까지 우리가 지속 가능한 성장, 그러니까 sustainable development라는 얘기를 했는데, 그것이 어떻게 우리가 좀 차이가 있고 또 어떤 좀 어떻게 우리가 좀 정의해 가야 되는지 그런 부분하고요. 그다음에 우리가 지금 얘기하는 녹색 성장이라고 하는 것이 기존의 어떤 성장과의 어떤 차이점을 그렇게 두고 있는지 하는 거, 그리고 기존 성장과 우리가 녹색 성장에서 어떠한 차이를 두고 어디에 더 이렇게 집중을 해야지만 지금 정부에서 얘기하는 새로운 성장 동력으로 그리고 일자리를 창출할 수 있는지, 그런 부분에 대해서 조금 의견을 나눠봤으면 하는 바람입니다.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Professor Cho. I think Dr. Roco has mentioned focused on the technology side. But maybe can I ask you one question, that do you think that the technology will be enough to promote low carbon green growth, or is it only one of the conditions?
I think technology is one avenue to address the issue. First approach certainly is governance, proper governance, and this has many components, from having long-term studies, assessing the risk, looking to life cycle of products and manufacturing, looking to the connection between different technologies, and taking measures from price, from including environmental impact in the cost of a product, up to requiring that any new development to be sustainable. I like to mention that at this moment, all the processes done by humankind are not sustainable. That means energy is not sustainable, water is not sustainable, climate is not sustainable, food is not sustainable. That means if we continue to go how we do now, certainly it's a problem only what time interval up to reach the critical phase. For instance, in water, it's estimated that by 2020 about more than 25 countries will be in a critical situation with water, including some parts in the United States, and already in several states it's a critical situation. And so to answer to your question, The problem refers to the societal implication as a whole and has to be addressed in this way, starting with governance up to technical solution. But certainly, technology offers one way to address these issues. For instance, nanotechnology that I mentioned increases the limits of sustainable development as we know now. For instance, if we lose the technology how it is now, maybe we reach the limits of sustainable development, let's say for materials in 20 years from now. If we use nanotechnology, maybe we increase this time interval to 100 years because we use more efficiently and less polluting, etc. That means it should be a combination between what society likes to do from economy and should be governance methods that should be as a core of the whole process.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment, Dr. Roco. And maybe can I make one comment to Dr. Pilat's idea that Europeans are now trying to decouple CO2 emission and the economic growth. But how do you think that the decoupling might be feasible for those European countries whose economic level is now moving to beyond the post-industrial and information and the service economy, which means that they are now relocating most of their energy-intensive heavy industry to China and Korea. That's why they could decouple their CO2 emission from growth, right? But a country like Korea, whose main backbone of our economy is manufacturing and energy-intensive industry. So how do you think? Still, that concept decoupling can be applied to Korea as well?
I think it raises other challenges. I think it probably, I think if we're talking about low carbon green growth, I think we basically have to talk about sort of a global context, because climate change is really a global problem, and it's not something if a few countries really move ahead in this and other countries don't do something at the same time, we will solve the problem. So we have to, I think, really work together on this in a global context. And I think that is partly also, I think, if we're really looking at where the growth in carbon emissions currently comes from, well, a lot of it will more come from countries which have very high growth, which are in an earlier stages of development, than it will come from Europe. But of course, a lot of the original problem comes more from countries which have already created a lot of the emissions in the past. So I think we have to be very balanced and work together. And one thing which I think a lot of the countries in the OECD areas have to do is to try and diffuse technologies to developing countries, to try and help countries which are in an earlier stage of economic development, countries like China, countries like India, to really deal with their global warming problems and to try and get cleaner technologies integrated at early stage of the discussion. I also think that at one point, which was I think also made by Mihail Roco, is that one of the things which we are lacking at the moment in the whole discussion on climate change is a price for the bad. I mean, the problem is that CO2 is free. I mean, it goes in the air. There's no cost linked to it, and the only way you can really get firms to focus on sort of dealing with the problem if there's a cost. If there's a cost linked to the CO2 emissions which go in the air. That is not easy, but I think there are discussions going on to try and see whether at least we can create a global market for CO2 emissions, where we can really try to help to use the market mechanisms to give firms the choice which technologies they can use, and to really give incentives to firms to develop new technologies, to incorporate cleaner technologies into their economies. I think it's a very complex problem, and I think we need to also firms matter, but also consumers, I think, matter. I mean, for instance, one problem I think we see in many countries is that what people are using at home in terms of their electricity, their energy use, can really become a problem, because houses, for instance, are not necessarily equipped with the right standards, with the right energy use. So how do you give the incentives as well to consumers at home to really use cleaner technologies and less carbon-free, less carbon-intensive emissions? So it's a complex problem, and I think we need to look at a very wide range of solutions, which technology is one of them, and a very important one, I think.
Okay, thank you very much for Maybe let me present my own views on this, since you have already commented on this green growth and low carbon. In fact, I was promoting the idea of green growth since 2005, which is 3 years ago, and I presented the green growth as a strategy, just like Professor Joe mentioned that what is the relationship between sustainable development and green growth. My interpretation is green growth is a Asia-Pacific regional strategy of operationalizing sustainable development. Because sustainable development is too broad. To me, it's too broad. And many governments are struggling how to operationalize sustainable development. And I come up with one idea that if we can green economic growth, then maybe we can come closer to sustainable development. So I focused on the relationship between economy and environment. Of course, the social dimension is lacking here, but I don't think we can address all three issues all at one time. Maybe we can focus on environment economy. Later on, we can focus on social development and environment or economy. Maybe we need a different approach. But green growth, I believe, is focusing on the two pillars of SD, sustainable development. Sustainable development is about three pillars, right? Economy, environment, social. But SD is only focusing, green growth is only focusing on economy and environment. So green growth is can be interpreted as one of the strategy of promoting sustainable development. That is my interpretation, and especially its green growth is relevant for Asia-Pacific country because this Asia-Pacific has a very high population density and very limited land and agricultural arable lands. So these countries in Asia is suffering from very limited ecological carrying capacity. That's why I thought that these countries has to improve their ecological efficiency. And I come up with some of my own ideas that how we can promote green growth. First of all, I thought that some of you already mentioned, the price has to be changed. The price is a very important factor because as long as we don't pay for the carbon, I think then everybody will keep on emitting or using the carbon, high carbon development paradigm. So price might be very important. So we have to change the price, and one of the important policy tool of changing this price structure is I was always emphasizing eco-tax reform, ecological tax reform, introducing a changing tax base from income to carbon. So at the moment we have a tax system where we are paying tax by our income, right? But I think we have to move towards a system where we pay our tax by our carbon emission rather than the income we are making, right? That is something OECD is actually doing. And I think it's a very important tool. Maybe OECD can promote this idea a little bit further to developing country. I know that you are doing it with developed country, and some of your developed country OECD members are doing it to a limited extent, but not in a very sufficient extent as well. So it's not sufficient at this stage. So price has to be changed. Secondly, I believe the infrastructure has to be changed. I thought that because transportation system, for example, many people are talking about hybrid as a solution, like a green car, as a solution for CO2 emission reduction. But personally, I don't think hybrid is an answer because if everybody is driving out their private car, which is hybrid, on the highway, which is large size, and like in Korea, Koreans, the average size of car in Korea is 20% bigger than Europeans. So if the people are still driving larger cars and everybody got stuck in the traffic congestion on the highway, waiting hours and hours, unnecessarily using energy, then I don't think a hybrid is an answer. So then we have to completely change the transportation system from private car-based system to public transportation-based system, which is like a railroad, subway, or buses, which I think Japan is a very good model on this. So not just a hybrid car, but for structural change of our transport infrastructure might be even more fundamental and necessary. The third point I think important is we have to change our lifestyle. without changing our lifestyle, I don't think anything we are talking about would be very limited, will have a very limited impact. So fourthly, I think is technology development. Yes, technology is necessary. Could be, I thought, could be the fourth pillar of this, what I have been doing. That was the 4 elements I was promoting when I was in UN to promote the green growth idea in Asia Pacific. So Professor Cho, you have a comment?
예, 저는 정례관 대사님께서 말씀하신 거에 대해서 좀 추가로 좀 더 몇 가지 말씀드려보고 싶습니다. 먼저 정 대사님께서 먼저 굉장히 저탄소 녹색 성장에 대한 것을 많이 얘기를 해주셨고요. 4가지 굉장히 역점을 둬야 되는 것 중에서 이제 첫 번째가 가격 구조 개편입니다. 그러니까 에너지 가격 구조 개편을 얘기하는데 그 중에서도 특히 전력 요금에 대한 체계가 바뀌어야 된다라고 생각합니다. 왜 그러냐면은 우리나라 전력 요금이 특히 산업용 같은 경우에 원가보다도 지금 저렴하게 제공이 되고 있고, 그 다음에 가정 상업용 같은 경우에 OECD 평균의 60% 정도 수준입니다. 그래서 사실은 에너지 가격이라든가 전기 요금이 낮게 유지가 된다는 자체는 산업 경쟁력이라든가 물가 상승을 억제할 수 있는 그런 좋은 요인이 있긴 하지만, 또 다른 문제는 뭐냐면은 그것이 낮은 전력 요금이라고 하는 것이 결국에는 에너지 절약이라고 하는 그런 부분에 있어서 하나의 걸림돌로 작용할 수도 있고요. 또 하나는 뭐냐면은 전기에 대한 것이 점점 수요가 증가하고 있습니다. 굉장히 급격하게 증가하고 있습니다. 그러니까 지난 30년 동안 연평균 증가율이 대략 한 9.6% 정도 증가했다고 합니다. 근데 거기에 비해서 동일한 기간에 석유 연평균 증가율은 7%가 채 안 되거든요. 그래서 우리가 석유에 대한 비중이 높다고 하는데도 불구하고 전기에 대한 수요가 굉장히 증가하고 있습니다. 그래서 사실 이렇게 증가하는 것이 과연 좋은 것이냐는 거에 대해서 한번 생각을 해봐야 되고, 결국에는 이렇게 낮은 전기를 계속 보급하기 위해서 필요로 하는 게 결국에는 원자력이다라고 하는 주장이 나오게 되는 것이죠. 그래서 이러한 문제가 좀 있고요. 그 다음에 아까 정 대사님께서 구조 변환이라는 부분, 그래서 수성 부분에 있어서의 굉장히 대중교통을 많이 이용하고 하는 부분 얘기하셨는데, 한 가지 더 추가하면은 산업 구조의 변환이 굉장히 중요하다고 봅니다. 왜 그러냐면 우리나라 GDP에서 에너지를 많이 쓰는 산업, 예를 들면 화학, 철강, 비금속 광물 같은 경우의 비중이 우리나라는 8.8% 정도 됩니다. 그런데 일본은 3.4%에서 우리나라가 2배가 더 높고요. 독일이 한 5% 정도 됩니다. 그러니까 우리가 독일 비해서 한 1.5배 정도 높습니다. 그래서 상대적으로 우리나라는 선진국에 비해서 GDP에서 에너지를 많이 쓰는 산업이 차지하는 비중이 굉장히 높다라는 겁니다. 그래서 저탄소 녹색 성장을 계속 가려고 하면은 기본적으로 이러한 산업 구조가 시프트하는, 그러니까 변화하는 이것이 없으면은 장기적으로 녹색 성장에 성공할 수 없다라는 생각을 좀 갖고 있습니다. 그리고 세 번째, 아까 생활 구조의 변화를 말씀하실 때 굉장히 중요한 것 같습니다. 역시 생활 구조의 변화에 있어서 중요한 것은 가정 상업 부분에서 에너지를 사용하는 패턴이 바뀌어야 된다는 겁니다. 그러니까 다시 말하면은 에너지를 절약하고 고효율 기기, 요즘에 많이 하는 LED라고 하는 그런 새로운 전력 조명이라든가 이런 것들을 사용해야 되고, 가정에서 자동차도 어떻게 보면 하이브리드라든가 대중교통을 많이 사용할 수 있는 이러한 가야 되는데, 결국에는 이것을 생활 구조를 변할 수 있도록 하는 것은 어떻게 보면 처음에 말씀하신 가격 구조의 변화부터 가야 되는 거 아니겠는가 하는 그런 생각이 듭니다. 그리고 마지막으로 기술이라는 것이 굉장히 중요하다고 말씀하셨는데 굉장히 중요하죠. 그러면서 우리가 한 가지 좀 생각을 해봐야 되는 것은 원자력이라고 하는 부분이 과연 청정 에너지로서 우리가 생각할 수 있는 것인가, 그리고 녹색 성장을 이룩하기 위해서 원전이라는 것이 굉장히 필요하다고 하는데, 과연 정말 우리가 원전이라는 것을 바탕으로 해서 이렇게 성장을 해야 되는 것이 과연 타당한 것인지, 과연 현재 세대에서는 그게 필요할지 모르지만 우리가 미래 세대를 고려한다라고 했을 때까지 하면은 과연 그러한 것이 과연 바람직한 것인지, 이런 부분에 대해서 한번 생각을 해봐야 되지 않을까 싶습니다.
I have just one comment regarding your argument that we have to shift towards from energy intensive industry to a low energy intensive industry. I don't think personally, my view is that I think it's upside down, that we are putting the horse in front of the cart, because the industrial structure for any country is based on the comparative advantage of each country, right? So at this developmental stage, Korea has a comparative advantage in energy intensive industry. So simply because in order to move to a low carbon green growth pattern, if we have to close down energy intensive industry simply to, I think that is not a relevant argument. That the point is, as long as we have a competitive advantage on this industry, I think Korea has to maintain this industry, because if we close down those factories, somebody else in the other world, like China or India, will produce the same cement or aluminum or whatever energy intensive products will be produced by somebody else, right? So from a global perspective, whether Korea is producing it or China is producing it is not anything, it's exactly the same, perfectly the same thing. So I don't think any country should have tried to artificially changing its industrial structure only because of low carbon paradigm. But rather, if you extend such pushing such an argument that country like Switzerland, who is based on tourism and a very low energy intensive industry, is already having low carbon green growth paradigm, because their economic structure is based on service economy mostly, or any country like Maldives, they don't produce anything, they're just tourism. So they're already green growth, right? So I think it is not very relevant that we have to change our structure of industry simply to go to low carbon.
예, 그러니까 제가 말씀드리는 것은 우리의 지금 산업 구조에서 제조업이라든가 이런 것들을 이렇게 구조를 이렇게 줄여서 해야 된다는 그런 얘기가 아니고요. 우리가 앞으로 21세기에 새로운 어떤 그 성장 동력이라든가 또는 새로운 일자리를 창출한다고 했을 때 기존의 제조업 중심으로 가는 건 일단 그대로 가지만 더 크게 우리가 그 파이를 키울 때 그 키워야 하는 파이에 있어서는 아까 말씀하신 대로 어떤 관광 산업도 있을 수 있고 우리가 새롭게 얘기할 수 있는 여러 가지 다양한 그 서비스업이라든가 또는 어떤 녹색 산업에 걸맞는 그러한 것들에 많이 투자를 하는 것이 어떻겠는가 하는 그런 생각이 드는 겁니다. 예를 들면 이제 신재생 에너지 같은 것들에 대한 투자도 좀 많이 해서 새로운 산업으로서 발굴하면은 당연히 과거에 있는 제조업은 그대로 가더라도 우리가 파이가 커지면은 상대적으로 그 부분은 이제 에너지를 많이 쓰는 기업들은 좀 줄어들 수 있는 그런 것을 이제 좀 얘기를 드리는 겁니다. 근데 문제는 이러한 신재생 에너지라든가 이런 산업이 과연 우리가 경쟁력을 가질 수 있겠는가 이런 부분에 있어서는 좀 많이 해야 될 것 같아요.
Okay, so maybe if we summarize that, we agree that industrial structure is something should be based on the comparative advantage of each country, rather than should be artificially be structured only for the sake of low carbon per se, right? Okay, so Dr. Pilat, you have any comment?
No, I think I agree with that point. I do think that that over time, what will happen, I think also in Korea, is that the industrial structure, of course, of Korea will change over time as your competition pattern changes, and you might move to more service-intensive activities. But even some service-intensive activities are not necessarily green growth. I mean, if we talk about tourism, I mean, if you look at the growth of aviation in recent years, at least if I look at Europe or the United States, where there is an enormous amount of low-cost air travel, which has really led to an enormous boom in the aviation industry, which of course hasn't been particularly green either. So I mean, even there, manufacturing versus services, it's not always entirely clear what is the greenest industry or where the green will come from. But I think we need to look at all sectors and see what the potential is, what the opportunities are to reduce carbon intensity. And I think in some sectors that will be easier than others, because perhaps the potential is a lot larger, because there are more opportunities, because there's more technology coming to the market. And I think we have to look very carefully at whether the technologies which are currently sort of either planned or underway, whether they can be commercialized, how they can be commercialized, how they can be brought to the market, because there are some real problems here as well. I think if for instance, one example, the OECD, sister organization of the OECD is the International Energy Agency. Earlier this year they produced their energy perspectives, which basically looks at the role of different types of energy solutions on trying to reduce carbon emissions, and it looks very carefully at all different technologies and sees, well, what contribution could it make to climate change. But there are some technologies which are still in a very early pipeline where there are very great difficulties before they will actually be commercialized, but before they become available. And there are areas where it will not be one company or one firm or one government which can really provide a solution, but it will really have to be based on international cooperation. And perhaps, Mr. Ambassador, the only comment I would make on your list of 4 points, the only one I think is probably needs to be in there as well, is international cooperation, because I think this is really a global problem and we need to do this globally.
Do you have any comment, Dr. Roco?
Well, maybe I'd like to make a connection to the topic of this conference. This conference is on global education. Usually at this conference we speak about how to increase creativity, innovation in education, with the ultimate goal to increase productivity. Probably another goal should be also to prepare to develop the information and awareness and methodologies for younger students how to address sustainable development. That means now is this is a moment when you like to address the human factor. If people are not ready, like you have to seed these ideas and also to offer the tools how to transform industries, environment for a long-term sustainable growth. So that means already in United States we started to do this in a program related to nanotechnology and converging technologies. For instance, we have a center, Center for Learning and Teaching in Chicago, where part of the modules of education are addressing sustainable development and environmental health and safety of the new technology. And so I think I'd like to make a connection to the topic of this meeting. I think it's very proper because as you see, all the conference is focusing how to do more, how to increase the productivity, which is very positive, but sometimes developing the production itself probably is not the only purpose because this is not sustainable.
Okay, so you're emphasizing on the education. Huh? Yeah, good. But Dr. Pilat, you have mentioned about international cooperation and the transfer of technology to developing country. But do you think the technology transfer or technology dissemination, I think there is a lot of controversy on this issue. And how do you assess whether the technology cooperation between OECD and the developing country has been effective or sufficient?
That's a difficult question. I find it difficult to assess that. I think it probably has been insufficient for the scale of the problem which we're facing at the moment. So I think in that sense there definitely needs to be more of that. I think we have to look very carefully at how we can increase that transfer of technology to developing countries. And there are barriers, there are problems. I think there are things which probably countries are looking at the moment, and one issue which I think is coming up, for instance, whether we can use existing mechanisms for development aid, development assistance more also to foster innovation in developing countries and to try and use that mechanism as one of the means of transfer. But there are other, important mechanisms which, of course, trade, licensing, foreign direct investment, which are important ways of getting technology to developing countries. And there are some problems there. I think intellectual property rights, for instance, is one problem because typically what we have intellectual property rights related to technologies because basically that gives incentives to firms. It gives a temporary monopoly to a firm to invest in innovation and to get returns from innovation. If we then say, well, we will not have those intellectual property rights when we transfer technology to developing countries, then firms say, well, we are losing out here. We're not getting any benefits. I think the solution can, sometimes that problem can be overcome. I think we've seen this discussion in some other areas, for instance, related to certain types of medicines. But it is a difficult problem, and I don't think there's any easy answer to that, and I don't have any.
I'd like to introduce you one brief experience with the Korea's bitter experience that when we had to comply with the Montreal Protocol for ozone depleting substances, that was an occasion I was started to be being involved with the global environmental issues in 1989. As you know, the Montreal Protocol is strictly imposing 0.3 kilogram per person of ozone depleting substances for developing country. So Korea has to reduce our consumption of freon gas. And so Korea was trying to find out substitute substances. And at that time there are only 4 companies in the world who are producing HFC, which is a substitute. And one of the Korean companies were trying to get license to produce the substitute. But unfortunately, this company is now enjoying the monopolistic status at that time. They are the only 4 companies in the world who are producing that particular substitute. So they refused to license their technology. They refused. And they are asking the price of the HFC 40 times the price of freon gas. This was the reason and occasion why I was involved, and now I am not still continue to work on this. So this is a very interesting case that, as you mentioned, because of the IPR, intellectual property rights, these companies, in some case, I don't think this is a commonplace and everyday occurrences, but the ozone was a very strategic and important issue at that time. But still, the particular company, I can say that it's an American company. I'm sorry to say this, but this company refused to license it, and then the only option Korea has to do, then we have to continue consume the freon gas, right? Because we don't have access to other substances. And then another option for us was that we have to develop our own technology. So we invested more than $10 million. They spent more than 5 or 6 years to develop HFC on our own technology. And it's very interesting, if you have time to explain this. By 89, they refused to license it, but by 93, they came to Korea and registered process patent, 41 process patent to block Korea's development of HFC technology. You cannot imagine that, right? But in spite of this, Korea has to waste our time to divert this patent, right? If we go exactly the same patent way, and we are infringing upon the patent. So it's delaying Korea's technology development. And by 95, when Korea was approaching all completion of the new technology, actually not new, but HFC technology, then this company approaching Koreans and proposed that we are willing to sell the technology to you. Because they say they are calculating that Korea is going to come up with its own technology. Then before they complete this technology, it's better to sell this technology, because once Korea developed this technology, there's no point of holding them the technology, right? So this is a history of a very interesting case of how the private companies are functioning. I don't blame them. The problem is the rule. We don't have any rules to regulate this kind of abuse of IPR. That's why in 92, when I was negotiating for Agenda 21 in 92, I proposed the compulsory licensing, and I insisted that it should be included there. Of course, the United States strongly opposed it in Rio de Janeiro, and the US delegate and myself were exchanging very hot and heated debate, and the US, of course, strongly opposing it. But I made my own argument that if governments do not have this kind of last resort of compulsory licensing, then there's no way of government can control the abuse of IPR. So finally, US agreed, and we put the compulsory licensing Agenda 21. So in Agenda 21, there is a clause saying that compulsory licensing can be done when a private company is abusing the IPR. That is there. And I'd like to introduce a very interesting episode with Jeffrey Sachs. 3 weeks ago, I was in New York and discussing with Jeffrey Sachs about how to integrate climate change into our development paradigm. And he was emphasizing also on technology transfer. And I mentioned about the issue of IPR. And he said that I couldn't believe what it is Jeffrey Sachs, that he said that technology, the cutting edge technology for climate change, should be public goods for the whole humanity and should be given freely to developing country. So I couldn't believe his word, you know. So I was questioning how about, in spite of the American very strong position on protection of IPR, is it feasible? Then he said, yes, I think it's feasible. So I told him that I included the compulsory licensing in '92, and everybody forgot about this. Then he told me, oh, I should congratulate you, and then you should revive it. That's what he said. So I was very amazed that American economist, Nobel laureate, is commenting like this.
That's a good point.
Well,
Dr.
Yes.
Roco, how do you think?
well, I think you made a good point. Is the problem of rules. Basically, it's the same thing if a Korean company has a license and spend $40 billion, let's say, to develop an industry, and someone tells, give me freely. You'll tell, no, wait a moment, I like to give against a compensation. I agree that should be rules that for higher purpose goals to be either international agreement or compensation for this, but the problem is in the rules, not in one country or another. I think it's basically the rules are made now in a one way, and all the countries are applying them in the same way. And so I agree with your comments that should be probably a platform like OECD, but even OECD doesn't have the right to reinforce policies. That means should be probably a kind of agreement, however, for higher purpose goals could be related to conversion of energy efficiently or reducing pollution, to be agreements to soften and or to find an international compensation for those who produce and to be widely distributed. For instance, one can, instead to be used for one product to have benefit from one single sale, to tell you, we give you equivalent to one sale benefit, and you are used by 20 users. So I think this is a point of so-called global governance, which is maybe also related to this meeting. Like we look all the time to single country. In fact, it's not a single country. Basically, all the companies are international, first of all. I don't know what company you mentioned exactly in detail, but all companies have a base in all other countries, and so it's more a problem to have a international governance, and this could be achieved initially by maybe informal groups, but thereafter should be reinforced by international agreements. Mm-hmm. And I think this is probably an avenue, including this financial crisis, shows that should be at a given moment in a situation of crisis, you should have a way to solve the problems. Not, as an issue now is that all the rules are done for individual countries. Is no global arrangement basically, and each one so are the rules made, and so maybe the rules have to be re-examined in advance, not in the moment when you like to use it, because probably it's difficult in that moment of crisis. We have to be done in advance, and maybe you should continue your attempt to address the issue.
Thank you very much. Okay, Professor Chung?
예. 지금 기술 얘기를 했는데 기술은 굉장히 중요한 것 같습니다. 왜 그러냐면은 일단 먼저 아까 대사님께서 기술을 공공재로 해야 되는 거 아니냐 이제 그런 얘기가 있습니다.
It's not my comment. It's Jeffrey Sachs's comment.
예, 죄송합니다.
I didn't say that. Jeffrey Sachs said that.
오케이. 그래서 만약에 기술이 공공재로서 한다고 했을 때 저는 경제학자이기 때문에 이런 생각이 듭니다. 뭐냐면은 일단 기술을 우리가 다른 선진국에서 개도로 준다 하더라도 일단 선진국에서 기술을 개발할 때 초기 투자비 들어간 것은 뽑아야지만 또 다른 기술을 할 수 있기 때문에 최소한 그것은 하고 그 다음에 이제 후진국으로 이제 줄 수가 있겠죠. 근데 이게 예를 들어서 이런 거 있습니다. 지금 기후변화와 관련해서 이산화탄소를 저감할 수 있는 가장 획기적인 기술 방법 중에 하나가 카본 캡처 스토리지라고 해서 탄소 포집 저장 기술을 지금 계속 보고 있는데, 만약에 이것을 선진국에서 이 CCS라고 하는 기술을 개발을 했습니다. 그래서 이게 아주 굉장히 혁명적으로 이산화탄소를 줄일 수 있다고 했을 때 과연 이것을 후진국에도 정말 할 수 있도록 해줄 것인가 했을 때 한번 좀 생각을 해볼 필요가 있는 것 같아요. 그리고 또 하나는 뭐냐면 우리가 이제 저탄소 녹색 성장을 얘기하기 때문에 거기에서 빼놓을 수 없는 기술과 관련된 게 뭐냐면은 신재생 에너지 기술입니다. 근데 우리나라를 보면은 지금 태양광과 관련된 그 모든 설비의 거의 90% 이상, 거의 뭐 99%까지 얘기하는 사람도 있습니다. 그게 전부 다 수입에서 의존하고 있습니다. 그리고 풍력 같은 경우에도 거의 60% 이상이 외국에서 갖고 오고 있거든요. 근데 정부가 지금 그 2030년까지 신재생 에너지를 11%까지 확대하겠다고 돼 있습니다. 이게 설비 기준으로 하면 엄청나게 많은 걸 갖고 있는데 과연 우리가 이렇게 기술력이 좀 이렇게 떨어져 있는 상태에서 과연 그 2030년까지 이것을 어떻게 가져갈 것인가 하는 문제, 이게 굉장히 참 중요한 것 같습니다. 그래서 아까 그 기술을 얘기를 했기 때문에 과연 그 우리가 어떻게 이러한 신재생 에너지와 관련된 기술을 계속 개발을 하고 이 비중을 확대해 갈 수 있을 것인가 이런 문제하고 아까 말씀드렸던 그 탄소 포집 저장 기술 CCS라고 하는 기술이라는 것이 과연 정말 선진국에서 그 기술이 개발됐을 때 이걸 정말 그 후진국이라든가 또는 개도국한테 정말 충분히 기술을 전수할 것인지 이런 부분에 대해서 어떻게 생각하는지 좀 여쭤보고 싶습니다. 어떻게 생각하세요?
How do you think the possibility of transfer of CCS? But as far as I know, Professor Cho, CCS is not a very high-tech technology. It's a very simple technology of capturing CO2, but the point is how you can store them, storage, how to store them on the ground. Actually, is more of a construction work. Construction work. It's not particular technology. Of course, it's the know-how, expertise, but I don't think it's a very high-tech technology. Am I wrong or right?
I'm not entirely sure because basically we have our International Energy Agency working more on detail on this issue. But as far as I know, this is one of the areas where I think international cooperation will be needed as well, because there are some solutions, particularly in terms of trying to look into this. But I think Norway, for instance, is one of the countries which is exploring this already, because they're trying to sort of look at how they can use their oil fields in the North Sea to see whether that may be a place to inject some of the carbon back into already. So there are some demonstrations or testing projects, I think, in this area already, but whether they will actually be commercially viable is still something to look in. There was one other point I wanted to make, which I think is an encouraging development in this area, at least, is that something which is, I think, is quite recent, is the development of what's called an eco-patents commons, which is basically that a number of companies are basically putting some of their patents which they sometimes either they don't use them much at the moment, or at least they think they are relevant to countries. They're putting them into the commons, so that basically it means they're putting them in a public space where basically people can use them and license them or use them without any infringements on copyrights. And I think in that sense there are some encouraging developments, I think, in the business community, where there is more of an effort to try and see, well, what they can do in this context. But I think we will have to see how this will develop, and I think also what is needed here is leadership, I think, to really try to move this agenda forward.
Anybody want to comment on the nuclear issue?
Sure.
I know you raised the question yourself. And how about Dr. Roco? How do you think about nuclear?
I think that nuclear will be used more and more unless other sources of energy will be developed, economical sources of energy. At this moment, conversion of solar energy is not economical. It's about 5 times more expensive than clean coal. It's a possibility that in next years solar energy will become economical. However, it's a possibility that will not become economical, because even, for instance, using the existing method like crystallized silicon, you make more pollution by preparing the silicon than using solar energy. And so that means if you look to alternatives, wind is limited. Wind energy can be used in some condition. Feedback in the network could be, depends on the country, maybe 10%, but probably no more. Other sources, thermal energy, is only few countries have. That means if you look to the future for a massive source of energy, clean energy, only nuclear and maybe thermonuclear in the future and longer term are at this moment realistic solutions. That means all other solutions we discussed for 60, 70 years, renewable sources of energy. Each 10 years are done new studies. So far were not used, not because people don't know about them, because we're not economical. It means who would like to use 5 times more the energy only because using solar energy and basically make more pollution because preparing the materials for those solar converter will create the pollution. I like just to make this point because sometimes the solar energy is used like a reference. However, it's possible in the future this to be developed. That means unless you have other breakthroughs like thermoelectric, like a direct conversion of solar energy in electric by other means, nuclear energy will have to be used in the world, maybe not in some countries which have restriction, but in other countries in order to close the balance of the need of energy. And the hope is that thermonuclear that is now in research will be under control in other 10, 20, 30 years, and that will create another clean source of energy under certainly under some risk of controlling that source of energy. That means in summary, maybe in the range of 10, 20 years, with the current methods that we know, technologies that we know, only nuclear energy can produce large amounts of energy for the global balance of needs of energy. That means some countries like Germany probably will not adopt this. France already has 70–80% in nuclear. Probably United States will move more in nuclear in order to reduce pollution and green, so-called green development, green growth. That means, to summarize, even this nuclear was looked like a potentially dangerous source of energy. If you look to statistics, more people die in coal-based thermoelectric plants run in mines by pollution than in any nuclear plant. Certainly, nuclear plant has a potential to create has a high risk, and for this reason, potentially high risk, and this reason was limited in many countries. The new technologies apparently are much more reliable, and so in summary, I think that United States probably will have to move in this direction because it's the only source available in medium term.
Professor, do you want to say something?
예, 제가 원자력 문제를 좀 먼저 거론했기 때문에 몇 가지를 좀 우리나라의 원자력 상황에 조금 설명을 좀 하고, 과연 이게 그 저탄소 녹색 성장하고 원자력이라는 것이 이게 어떤 방향으로 가야 될 것인가에 대해서 한번 좀 생각을 해보겠습니다. 이게 먼저 잘 아시는 것처럼 올해 초에 국가에너지 기본계획이라고 하는 것을 이제 세우면서 그 국가에너지 기본계획에 두 가지 이슈가 있었습니다. 하나는 신재생 에너지를 얼마만큼 확대해 갈 것인가 하는 거하고, 그 다음에 이제 원자력 비중을 얼마만큼 키워갈 것인가 하는 그 두 가지가 있었는데, 그 논란의 핵심에 원자력 비중을 굉장히 많이 키워가는 걸로 이렇게 했었죠. 그래서 사실 그 원자력 발전이라 하는 것이 굉장히 우리 사회의 지금 여건을 감안하면은 굉장히 필요하다고 생각합니다. 왜냐하면 신재생 에너지 자체를 이용을 해서 전기를 생산하고 하는 것 자체가 굉장히 경제성이 떨어지고 비현실적인 그런 부분도 있습니다. 그래서 이러한 상황에서 석유가 이제 어느 정도 비중을 좀 낮춰야 되기 때문에 원전이 굉장히 중요한 역할을 하는 것만은 사실이고, 또 이제 정부에서 어떠한 것을 생각하고 있냐면 원전은 한 기를 세울 때 한 2조 5천억 정도의 고용 창출 효과가 있다고 하고 있습니다. 근데 원전은 짝수로 지어져야 되기 때문에 두 기씩 가기 때문에 원전을 짓게 되면 한 5조 정도, 5조 원 정도의 이제 고용 창출 효과가 있을 거다라고 생각을 하는 거죠. 그래서 이제 외국으로도 우리나라의 원전 기술을 수출할 수도 있는 거 아니겠는가 이런 것도 있고 또 하나 뭐냐면은 아까도 말씀드렸던 우리나라는 에너지 가격 특히 전기요금을 원가보다도 싸게 지금 공급하고 있습니다. 그래서 이러한 그 계속 그 양질의 전기라고 하는 것을 계속 저렴하게 공급하기 위해서는 원자력이 굉장히 필요할 수밖에 없는 게 우리나라의 지금 현실인 거죠. 그래서 그러한 면만 놓고 봤을 때는 사실 원전을 우리가 독일처럼 조기 폐쇄하라든가 이런 것은 굉장히 그 비현실적인 거라고 생각을 합니다. 근데 그러면서도 우리가 그 한번 원전에 대해서 심각하게 생각해 봐야 되는 건 뭐냐면은 일단 원자력 발전이라고 하는 것이 정말 우리가 지금 알고 있는 것처럼 경제성이 뛰어나냐라는 부분에 있어서는 이게 기존에 이미 지어진 거는 그럴지 모르지만 신규로 짓는 것은 이제 더 이상 경제성이 이렇게 뛰어나지 않을 거다라는 겁니다. 왜 그러냐면은 일단 원자력 발전소는 한 번 지으면 한 10년 정도의 공기가 들어가는데 요즘에 이제 그 토지 보상하는 문제, 부지 선정하는 문제 등등해서 굉장히 복잡합니다. 그리고 뭐냐면은 원전이 수명을 다하고 난 다음에 폐로를 해야 되는데 그 폐로 비용이 얼마나 들어가는지 지금 알 수가 없고요. 그리고 10년이 지나고 난 다음에 신재생 에너지라든가 대체 에너지 기술이 어떻게 변화했을지를 모르는 것 때문에 사실 너무나 많은 부분을 원전에 들어간다는 것은 굉장히 우리 스스로가 너무 그 현재의 그 위급함 때문에 급함 때문에 너무 그 미래의 어떤 그 변화하는 것을 제대로 대처하지 못하는 거 아니겠는가 그런 이런 생각을 할 수가 있다고 봅니다. 그리고 기본적으로 우리가 지금 어떠한 그 사회적으로 어떠한 문제가 있냐면은 얼마 전에 그 추경 예산 1조 40억입니다. 그 한국전력과 가스공사가 적자를 갖고 있는 그 1조 40억을 세금으로 이제 메어준 게 있는데 그게 뭐냐면은 그 당시에 고유가 문제 때문에 한전하고 가스공사가 요금을 올려가지고서 이 적자 손실을 보존해야 되는데 정부가 물가 상승을 억제한다는 취지하에서 동결을 시켰거든요, 가격을. 그러니까 결국에는 어쩔 수 없이 한전과 가스공사에서 적자를 발생시킨 거고 정부가 이것을 뒤로 다시 메워준 겁니다. 그래서 우리가 이러한 그 낮은 그 왜곡된 아까 정래건 대사님도 말씀하셨지만 에너지 가격제 특히 전기요금이 왜곡된 상태에서 어쩔 수 없이 이렇게 간다라고 하니까 이것을 유지하기 위해서 원자력이 필요한 거 아니겠느냐 하는 이런 주장이 있기 때문에 한번 우리가 원전을 생각하기 전에 그 필요성이 없다라는 것이 아니고 필요하지만 우리 사회 시스템에서 이러한 에너지 가격 체제부터 먼저 좀 이렇게 획기적으로 바꿔놓고 그 다음에도 우리가 정말 그 전력 수요가 증가하고 또 여러 가지 필요하다고 하면은 그때 가서 국민적 합의에 의해서 원자력을 지어가고 이걸 통해서 필요하다고 하면 이걸 통해서 뭐 녹색 성장의 하나로 이렇게 생각할 수 있는 거죠. 그리고 또 하나는 이거만 하나만 더 코멘트 드리면은 기후변화에서 우리가 CDM 사업이라는 게 있습니다. 청정개발체제라는 그게 있는데 거기에서 원자력 발전소를 다른 나라에다가 건설해서 생기는 크레딧을 인정하지 않고 있습니다. 그 얘기 뭐냐면은 탄소가 저감하는 거에 그 입장에서만 보면은 원자력이 굉장히 좋지만 원전은 이산화탄소 배출 외에 기타 다른 여러 가지 그 환경과 관련된 그 부정적인 영향을 많이 갖고 있기 때문에 타국가에다가 원전을 지어서 생기는 어떤 탄소 저감 크레딧은 인정하지 않고 있다는 겁니다. 그것만 봐도 원전 문제는 어떻게 보면은 굉장히 우리가 좀 더 신중하게 접근해야 되는 거 아니겠는가. 이게 제 개인적인 생각입니다.
Okay. I'd like to make my own comment on the low carbon green growth paradigm. When the President Lee Myung-bak first announced this in 15th of August, some people commented that the government's announcement is lacking a concrete concept and strategy. And that some people say that it's abstract and we don't have a clear idea whether it is really well structured a strategy. Regarding these comments, my idea is that it is true that low carbon green growth is just a vision, and it is true that the concept and strategy is not well defined yet. It is something that we have to explore and define with all the consensus of the economists and all the experts on this area. So what I'm saying is that this low carbon green growth is something which is not existing in this world as of now. So it is a vision we have to work together and we have to develop for the future. How do you think about this? Am I right or wrong, Dr. Pilat?
I think you're right. I mean, I think this is something which I think is coming on the agenda, as I said earlier, in many countries. I mean, this is definitely in focus, I think, but how to do it exactly is still something I think we all need to work on. I mean, this is also for us at the OECD, this is very high priority. There's a lot of interest at the moment in climate change. Countries are looking for solutions, for global solutions, to try and get technology out there, but also to try and deal with the other problems we were talking about today. So I think there's definitely a vision, I think, of many countries, not only because we need to do this because of climate change, but also I think because many countries see this as an opportunity to change the way they're currently doing things, to try and get more also to look ahead and to try and be there when this really becomes an even more important issue, that their business, their industry, their society is ready for the problem which we're facing. So in that sense, I think you're definitely right.
So I think that we are trying to promote low carbon green growth, not just because of climate change, but of course it's driven by the rising oil price. But at the same time, by pursuing low carbon green growth will improve our quality of life. That's my vision, that why we should pursue low carbon green growth. For example, Korea is not suffering terribly from very high cost of traffic congestion. The traffic congestion situation in Korea is terrible because Korea copied American transport system based on private car and highway. We did not copy Japanese style, which is the railroad and subway and public transportation. Korea is a small country with highly populated density. So, but in spite of this quite different situation from the United States, Koreans just imported and copied the American transport system. Then now, the end result is that we are suffering terrible traffic congestion every day of our life, even in Seoul, downtown, or not only inside downtown Seoul, but if you are trying to go out of Seoul, also there's a serious traffic congestion. So if we can solve this problem of switching to the public transportation, and we can improve our traffic congestion, then I think our quality of life will be improved. Not only a CO2 emission goes down, so we can achieve quality of life and also CO2 emission reduction at the same time. That's why you have to pursue it. That's my vision of this. And regarding as it is a new vision, as I said, it's a new vision, then how we should promote? I think the key concept is that the government as well as the civil society and people have to understand the ecological efficiency idea, that our consumption and production and the lifestyle has to be more focused on improving our ecological efficiency. What I mean ecological efficiency is that using the minimum ecological resources and making maximum output or value or any value added or GDP. So by improving such ecological efficiency and promoting this idea, but at the moment we are living under market cost efficiency paradigm, because for example our electricity price, which Professor Joe mentioned, we are paying only half of the real price of the electricity. So we are abusing and using a lot more electricity. So we are not paying for the actual price, ecological price of electricity. So the price structure if changed, then we can improve our ecological efficiency. So I think we have to shift toward a ecological efficiency paradigm in order to promote low carbon green growth. But at the moment the ecological efficiency is something still not very well defined as of now. We still have to work on this. We still have to work on this. I'm not saying that ecological efficiency is a fixed and already well-established concept. No way. It is a very new and a very innovative and something we have to work on to complete. So it is something we have to define. And then maybe for this, OECD can play a role how to improve and define and develop ecological efficiency so that we can restructure our society. I can tell you just one example. If we have an ecological efficiency perspective, Korea might design completely different airport, completely different amusement park. We have a children's amusement park just about 10 kilometers away from here. It has just copied American Disneyland. So it has a huge parking lot. Everybody's driving private car to the amusement park, children's park. It's terrible. Everybody spends more than an hour just to parking. And spend more than an hour to get out of this parking lot because of traffic congestion around the amusement park. But if we apply the ecological efficiency concept, we should remove those parking lots and everybody should be asked to take monorail or public transportation from a public transportation point, so that we don't have to build such a huge parking lot because we don't have land.
We have to build a parking lot as a entrance in the train, so you have the same problem.
But the train will use a lot lower, smaller land, and the people can save their gasoline consumption.
Yes, maybe
tens of thousands of people are.
Yes, maybe I like to make a point that probably just the measures from top down is a difficult approach. Probably the best approach is to apply self-sustainable ecological principle to each project, to each product. And I think to be from bottom up. It's difficult for a policeman from top down to check, you didn't done enough. And so I think should be in the rules of design, in the educational system, in the
But what are you going to educate?
Industry.
Drive a car to parking lot or
the idea is how, when you design something, to be aware that you have to design a different way.
That's my point, yeah. The design has to be ecologically efficient.
Should be in each product, each project, but not only because at a given moment a government measure. Probably this has to change the practice of designing and building things. And I agree with you that the future is only in this way. We cannot avoid this. And
You want to say something?
예. 아마 그 시간이 얼추 다 됐기 때문에 이제 뭐 마지막으로 저도 이제 정리하라 그러면은 전 정래건 대사님께서 지금 말씀하신 부분에 굉장히 전적으로 동감합니다. 그러니까 지금 현재 그 저탄소 녹색 성장이라는 것은 개념이 명확하게 서 있지 않은 상태에서 정립해 가고 있는 중이다라는 것이고, 그래서 결국에는 어떠한 방향으로 갈 것이냐 하는 거에 따라서 앞으로의 녹색 성장의 모습도 달라질 거라고 생각됩니다. 다른 하나 이제 제가 생각하면서 우리가 좀 심각하게 생각해 봐야 될 것은 왜 기존의 성장과 다른 녹색 성장이라는 것을 이제 얘기하게 됐는가, 그리고 기존의 성장에서 우리가 미처 생각하지 못했던 것 또는 빠져 있는 것들이 뭐가 있었기에 우리가 녹색 성장에서 집어넣어서 해보려고 하겠는가, 이런 것인데, 이것은 아까 정 대사님께서 얘기하신 대로 과거에는 양적인 성장 중심으로 갔는데 이것은 이제 우리가 질적인 성장으로 좀 봐야 된다라는 겁니다. 예를 들면 우리가 성장과 관련돼서 GDP라고 하는 것을 얘기하는데, 그 GDP에는 우리가 같은 시간에 일하는 시간은 들어가지만 우리가 나가서 여가를 즐기는 시간에 대해서는 GDP에 잡히지는 않습니다. 그리고 같은 대학 교육을 받아서 그 나가서 일을 하는 사람의 그 보험급은 GDP에 잡히지만 집에서 일하는 가정주부의 가사 노동 시간은 또 GDP에 잡히지가 않는 거죠. 그래서 사실 이러한 GDP라고 하는 것은 양적인 그러한 부분이기 때문에 우리가 질적인 부분에서 어떻게 이러한 것을 할 것인가 하는 그런 부분. 그래서 사실 지금 보면은 정부에서 얘기하는 녹색 성장은 거의 하드웨어적인 그런 부분에 대해서 굉장히 많은 그 집중을 하고 있는데, 우리가 녹색이라고 갖고 있는 거기에 있는 소프트웨어적인 이러한 어떤 삶의 질이라든가 이러한 것들에 대해서도 한번 좀 생각을 하고, 앞으로 이게 그 지금 이명박 정권이 계속 5년 동안 그 드라이브를 걸어서 계속 저탄소 녹색 성장이라는 패러다임을 국가의 새로운 성장 동력으로 갖고 가려고 하는데, 이 부분이 정말 우리가 잘 갈 수 있도록, 그래서 너무나 과거에 70년대 80년대처럼 우리가 빠른 급속한 경제 성장 그런 모습 말고 느리지만 우리가 제외하고 갔던 어떤 삶의 질을 좀 집중적으로 조명해서 갈 수 있는 그러한 방향으로 가도록 하는 것이 필요하지 않겠는가 하는 게 제 개인적인 생각입니다.
You have any final comment?
Just perhaps just to finalize, I mean, I think there's quite a lot of work on, I think, on all these things going on at the moment. Actually, one aspect which was just mentioned, we are trying to look at the OECD as well on how we can capture some of the sort of the quality of life indicators in measures of economic progress and societal progress. So that's one important thing. we're also looking at things like resource productivity and how we can measure that, how we can use existing resources better. So the idea of ecological efficiency, I think, is an important one as well, and one we should be looking at. I just wanted to make one final comment on nuclear, which is what I've seen, at least in the projections of the International Energy Agency, and the role of nuclear. It's quite limited. I think what I found very interesting from them is that the main source of reducing carbon emissions will, in their view, will very much come from reductions in improvements in energy efficiency, basically using the way we use energy at the moment better. And I think that is a very important and probably underdeveloped thing which we're looking at. I think using different light bulbs, using the differences in how we do things at home and so on can really make a bigger change already. So, but it has to be a very wide range of technological options. I think there's no one source which will fix all.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. But I will make a final comment in Korean. And 이 저탄소 녹색 성장이라는 것은 사실은 저희는 그동안 지난 30년 동안 선진국의 모델이 있었기 때문에 뭔가 보고 따라갈 카피할, 복사할 모델이 있었습니다. 그래서 우리 열심히 따라오면서 산업화했고 민주화됐고 각 반도체, 그다음에 자동차, 이 선진국에 따라갈 모델이 있었기 때문에 우리가 그걸 보면서 열심히 따라왔고 여기까지 왔습니다. 그런데 이제 와서 우리한테 이 펼쳐진 새로운 도전은 뭐냐면 이 저탄소 녹색 성장이라는 모델은 더 이상 카피할 모델이 없다는 겁니다. 이제는 우리가 우리 스스로 이제 새로운 모델을 창출해 나가야 되는 단계에 도달했다는 건데요. 이거야말로 우리한테는 굉장히 당혹스러운 겁니다. 왜? 우리는 그동안에 앞서간 사람들을 뒤를 보면서 따라오는 걸로 우리는 충분했어요. 열심히 했으면 됐습니다. 그래서 우리 열심히 했습니다. 그래서 많이 성공했어요, 지금까지. 남을 카피하는데, 선진국을 따라잡고 카피하는데 성공을 했는데, 근데 이제 우리가 당혹스러운 건 이러한 저탄소 녹색 성장이라는 어디에도 카피할 수 없는 새로운 비전을 우리가 따라가야 되는데, 거기에 모델이 없다는 겁니다. 이걸 우리가 앞으로 만들어 나가야 됩니다. 그런데 이런 걸 만들어 나가는 데 있어서 저는 가장 중요한 것이 이 국민들과 시민사회의 정부의 의지는 물론이고 정부와 시민들의 이해가 필요한데요. 예를 들면 간단한 전기 가격의 현실화, 또 수돗물 가격의 현실화, 이 간단한 거 하나를 해결하지 못하고 있습니다. 수돗물 가격이 현실화 안 됐기 때문에 OECD에서 수돗물 가격이 한국이 제일 쌉니다. 그렇기 때문에 물을 가장 많이 낭비하고 있습니다, 우리나라가. 이런 거를 고쳐야 되는데 이걸 고치려도 우리 시민들한테 이해를 촉구하는 것이 굉장히 어렵습니다. 그리고 공공요금 동결 이런 문제 때문에. 그래서 이런 것도 저희가 이제 정부가 좀 더 허심탄회하게 시민들한테 이해를 촉구하고 이런 거를 받아들여주고 이 비전에 같이 동참해서 나가기 위해서는 시민들도 이런 거를 수용해줘야 된다. 그리고 가격을 지불할 용의가 있고 지불해야 된다. 이 그린 그로스 녹색 성장, 저탄소 녹색 성장이라는 게 공짜로 오는 게 아니다. 우리 시민들도 여기에 대한 대가를 치르고 참여를 해줘야 된다 하는 거를 우리 시민들이 좀 알아줬으면 좋겠다는 생각을 저희가 하면서 오늘 자대회를 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다. Thank you very much.
Interesting time.